Let's be real. When you hear the word hacker, what pops into your head? Probably some person in a hoodie in a dark room with green coat flying across the screen, right? And look, that stereotype exists for a reason, but it's such a tiny piece of a much bigger, much more interesting story. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and learn how to think like the good guys, the ethical hackers who use their skills to build defenses, not tear them down. And we need them now, more than ever. 435%. What is that? Well, that's the jump in ransomware attacks in just 1 year. The digital world we all live in is under constant siege. And believe it or not, the best defense is learning to think like the attacker. So to really get inside a hacker's head, you first have to understand the world they operate in. Our most important stuff, our money, our secrets, our infrastructure, it's all digital now. And that's turned cyberspace into this huge modern battlefield where the threats aren't just growing, they're growing exponentially. I mean, just look at these numbers for a second. A 358% increase in malware, and that absolutely staggering 435% jump in ransomware. This isn't some slow, gradual problem. It's an explosion. And every time a new phone, a new car, a new smart toaster connects to the internet, that battlefield just gets bigger and bigger. So what exactly are we trying to protect in this giant digital world? Well, it pretty much all boils down to these three things, what we call the CIA triad. Confidentiality, that's just keeping secrets secret. Integrity, making sure the data you're looking at hasn't been messed with. And availability, making sure you can actually get to your stuff when you need it. Every attack you've ever heard of is an attack on at least one of these three pillars. All right, if you're going to defend the castle, you have to know who's trying to storm the gates. But here's the thing about the world of hacking. It's not as simple as just good guys and bad guys. The lines can get really, really blurry. The easiest way to break it down is by the hats they wear. You've got your white hats. They're the good guys, the professionals hired by companies to find the security holes before the criminals do. Then you've got the black hats. They're the criminals, the one using their skills to steal, defraud, or just cause chaos. And right in the middle, you have gray hats. They're complicated. They might hack a system without permission, but then tell the company about the flaw instead of exploiting it. They're not exactly heroes, but they're not quite villains either. And just when you think you have it sorted, motivations can get even more complex. Take hacktivism. This is when someone uses hacking as a form of protest. They might be trying to expose corruption or fight for a cause they believe in. But even if the goal seems noble, the methods are almost always illegal, which just blurs those lines between right and wrong even further. So how does a hack actually happen? Whether you're a white hat or a black hat, the process isn't just random button mashing. It follows a very structured, very methodical playbook. This is a calculated process, not chaos. And this is that playbook, the 5 phases of hacking. It always starts with reconnaissance. That's just gathering information. Then you move to scanning, where you start actively probing the target. Phase 3 is the big one, gaining access. But it doesn't stop there. Then you have to maintain that access. And finally, cover your tracks so nobody knows you were there. Every single hacker, good or bad, follows some version of these steps. Let's just zoom in on that first phase, reconnaissance, because it's so important. There are 2 flavors. Passive recon is like being a detective. You're invisible. You're digging through social media, news articles, public records, gathering clues without ever tipping off your target. Active recon, though, that's when you start rattling the doorknobs. You're probing their network directly. You get way better information, but you also run a huge risk of getting caught. So once a hacker's done their homework and they're ready to actually get in, what are they looking for? Well, they have a few favorite doors to try. They might attack the operating system itself, especially if it's using default settings, or they'll hunt for bugs in the code of the applications running on a server. Sometimes they get lazy and use shrink wrap attacks, basically prepackaged exploit kits. But you know what? A lot of the time, the easiest way in is just a simple mistake, a misconfiguration that an administrator overlooked. Okay, so let's pause here, because this is the most important part. If the good guys and the bad guys are using the same 5-phase playbook, and they're often using the exact same tools, what's the difference? What is that one bright, unbreakable line that separates an ethical hacker from just a criminal? Seriously, think about that. They have the same skills, they know the same tricks. So what makes one action heroic and the other a felony? It's this, one simple rule. Get permission.
An ethical hacker has a contract. They have a signed document, a scope of work, a non-disclosure agreement. They have the full, written, documented consent of the target before they type a single command. Without that piece of paper, it's not ethical hacking. It's just a crime. End of story. Now that permission gets formalized into a job we call a penetration test, and they come in 3 main styles. A black box test is where the ethical hacker knows nothing about the target beforehand. They're simulating an attack from a total stranger on the internet. A white box test is the total opposite. They get all the info, source code, network maps to simulate what a malicious insider, like a disgruntled employee, could do. And a gray box test is somewhere in the middle. They get a little bit of info, maybe a user account, to simulate what a normal user who gets curious could potentially do. So as we wrap this up, think about this. In this crazy digital war we're all a part of, the defenders can't just sit back and build bigger walls. They have to understand the enemy. They have to learn their tools, think their thoughts, and walk in their shoes. The ethical hacker masters the art of the attack, not because they want to destroy anything, but because it's the only way they can learn how to build a stronger defense for all of us.